So I don't know if it's the fact that I stay away from trailers or not, but one of the things that bothered me about Madame Web is that it didn't deliver on the promise of what I thought the movie was selling. I was under the impression that Madame Web was going to be a superhero movie with women dressed in Spider-Man outfits working together, kicking criminals' asses. But to my shock and surprise, this is not that kind of movie. In fact, I don't even know how they could even call this a superhero movie. This is less of a superhero movie and more of like a thriller. I wasn't coming in expecting much given that it's a Sony Spider-Verse movie, but my lord, was this hot garbage. At the very least, I was expecting these women to fight crime and for us to get like some fun banter or some fun action scenes, but the movie doesn't even go there. Instead, it teases that concept. In the end, it left me confused and asking, why didn't we get that movie? Why didn't we get the movie that Madame Web is teasing? Madame Web stars Dakota Johnson as Cassandra Webb, an EMT who discovers she can see minutes into the future and is able to alter events based on her abilities. I'll be honest, I haven't seen much of Dakota Johnson. In fact, I think the only movies I've seen her in were the criminally underrated Suspiria and Peanut Butter Falcon. I remember liking her in those movies, but I felt like she was miscast here. Her performance came off as kind of robotic, and the movie wants her to be funny at times, but she had terrible comedic timing. She does what she can with what she's given, I suppose, but even with what she's given, I wasn't really buying it. Then there's the three teens she has to protect from the big spider dude. All three of these teen girls are laughably underwritten, and you know next to nothing about them. The only information you get is that we know at some point they will be crime fighting heroes and that they all have parent issues. That's it. That's all you really know about them. A good chunk of this movie is Cassandra protecting these three girls, but we never really get to know them, so why do we even care? The amount of laziness in the script is just astounding. But before I move on, I just want to point out some things I actually liked about Madame Web. Sure, this movie is a complete dumpster fire. However, there were some aspects I did enjoy. I really love movies where one person or a group of people are being hunted down by an unstoppable force and it leaves them on the run, trying to fight for their lives. Think like Terminator or even something like the Fright Night remake. I love those movies. And to my surprise, there's about a 30 to 40-minute chunk of this movie that is essentially that style of plot. And I actually kind of dug this section of the movie. Sure, the characters are awful, the villain is a joke, but despite all that, I was still having a fun enough time watching the villain hunt these girls down while Madame Web is trying to protect them. Unfortunately, this plot structure doesn't last long, but while it was going down, I was mildly entertained. Another aspect I enjoyed was her powers. I came into this movie knowing absolutely nothing about this character, so it was a pretty fun experience getting to learn what her abilities are. Plus, I like time travel sci fi stuff, so I just inherently enjoyed the time bending stuff. But outside of these two aspects, this movie is a complete train wreck. We need to talk about the villain Ezekiel. I don't know who Tahar Rahim is, but my lord, do they do him dirty in this movie. He's another character we know nothing about, other than that he knows that someday in the future he'll be picked off by the three girls. We also don't really know much about his powers, other than that he can climb walls and jump high. And that's cool, I guess. He's basically Spider-Man without any web swinging. But the biggest head scratcher is how they handled his dialogue scenes. Is it just me, or did they straight up decide not to show him talking? I swear, in most of his dialogue scenes, the movie focuses more on the person he's talking to and less on a close up of him actually saying the words. It's very, very bizarre. As an example, Ezekiel has some surveillance woman at his condo because, I don't know, of course he does. And I'm pretty sure every scene they have together, the surveillance woman is on screen 90% of the time. And when we do cut to Ezekiel, they use a camera angle that obscures his face. And why? What happened? Oh, and it gets even worse because in the very, very brief moments where the film does cut to him talking, most of the time the dialogue doesn't even match his lips. Like, what in the world is going on? Guys, this is a big budget Hollywood movie. A movie that avoids camera angles showing the main villain talking. Do you know how fucking wild that is? There's not much of a plot here. It's basically bad spider dude trying to murder a group of girls because he knows in the future that they'll one day kill him, and it's up to Madame Web to stop him. That's basically it in a nutshell. Which on paper actually sounds kind of fun. It's very Looper-esque. It's just the execution is absolutely atrocious. You don't care about anyone. The dialogue is constantly laughable. There's very little action or suspense, and you feel absolutely nothing by the time the credits roll. And again, as I said in the beginning, where was the crime fighting? Where were the women dressed in awesome Spider Woman costumes? This movie just teases that when instead it should have been that. Instead, what we get is some weird, uninteresting prequel origin story. They should have given us the movie Madame Web is teasing and then come back and do a prequel because no one really asked for this. Would this movie improve if it was women fighting crime? Who knows? I'm sure it still would have been awful, but it couldn't have been much more worse than this. And at the very least, and you might disagree with me here, but at least this wasn't as bad as Morbius. That movie was complete dog shit. This movie isn't that much better, but with Madame Web, there was at least a few things I enjoyed. Unlike Morbius, which I don't think I enjoyed anything about. So, if anything, the biggest compliment I can give Madame Web is that at least it's not as bad as Morbius.